Feed your future self with magic internet money.
Peter McCormack, welcome to the Magic Internet Money podcast.
Thank you.
I got to say thank you for encouraging me to start this podcast. You were one of the folks that kept encouraging me to start the podcast through Twitter.
Well, I'm glad you did it.
And I'm sure you've done that to a lot of people, eh? You seem to be the guy that helps everybody out whenever they ask questions.
Yeah, if someone wants to do it, I just say do it. It's so interesting, so many ways. There's a bunch of people who see my income reports, right? And they're like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. And they're driven by the money. And that wasn't the starting point for me. So, that's always going to be tough because it's hard to make money from this stuff. But even if you're not going to make money, there's so much you can get from doing a podcast in terms of gaining knowledge and bullshit stuff like learning about yourself and learning a new skill. But yeah, it's great. I love it.
I would say for people that aren't familiar with Peter, my friends, family, whoever's listening to this, folks, Peter has one of the most successful Bitcoin-themed podcasts. It's called What Bitcoin Did. And I would describe you as kind of like a more interesting version of Tim Ferriss for crypto.
That's very kind of you.
Tim Ferriss is really interesting, obviously, but he doesn't have a cool accent like you.
Well, yeah, but he does to me. Or, I interviewed the other day Matthew Machinsky. I have voice envy with him.
I gotta listen to that one.
Yeah, but you know what it is, right? Everyone who hears their own voice hates it. I hate my voice. Every time I listen back, I'm like, what a fucking idiot. Who listens to that?
Well, the reason why I say that Tim Ferriss is because, and folks might not even know who Tim Ferriss is if they're not entrepreneurs or whatever. He's the author of The 4-Hour Workweek, The 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef. He has a really successful podcast. But you're like a polymath. You try a lot of different things. You are interested in a bunch of different subjects. And you're a very hard worker. You're traveling all the time. You're flying all over the world for your podcast. And you're very open for people to talk to. And you're very open with what you've learned and your process and your numbers. Like you just said, you share your numbers of your show. And that's something that Tim Ferriss did really well and got a lot of respect and followers because he was like an open book for anybody to just see how his process works. And he gave so much good information and real numbers to back up, his lessons learned and stuff. Did you take inspiration from him? What made you want to start sharing everything?
Well, there's a couple of things there. There's the transparency and the numbers because they're two separate things. So the numbers thing actually came from, there's a couple of podcasts, Smart Passive Income and Entrepreneurs on Fire, the John Lee Dumas one. Both I've listened to at different times and both on their website have income reports. And so when I got my first couple of checks in from What Bitcoin Did, I thought, right, I'll track this and I will just provide it transparency, do the income reports for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I put some pressure on myself, to deliver. When I had a company previously, I used to have my advertising agency, we had a board, right? So every month you would have the board that you would have to answer to and show what you've done. I didn't have anyone to answer to with the podcast. So I thought if I just made it public, I'd have to do that. And secondly, just Bitcoin is full of so many scammers and such bullshit. I was just like, look, here's the numbers. And if anyone wants to have a go at me or say I'm being paid off by anyone, I'll say, well, look, the best I can do is be transparent and hope you trust me. So that was that. And then in terms of being just like an open book and transparent about everything else, I don't know. I was just, again, when I launched my advertising agency, we decided to try and launch that as a transparent business. So when we built the first website, it was a to-do list of launching a business. And what we did is we kind of tick things off on the website as we did them, and the website kind of took shape. And I don't know, I've always liked that transparent side of things. It doesn't feel natural for people, but when you do it yourself, most people, it's like fake it till you make it kind of stuff. But actually, I've found if you're really transparent and open, honest about your mistakes, honest about what you're trying to do, people kind of enjoy following the story and will support you. And all you have to deal with then is just like a minority of morons. But you're going to deal with morons anyway. So in this way, I think the upside's worth it. So yeah, I'm fully, more than happy to be transparent. It's kind of funny though, because then what happened was the numbers obviously got quite good at some one point. So that came with its own kind of pressures and bullshit. But yeah, I advise anyone to try and consider doing everything they can as transparently as they can handle, because I think it's got far more upside than downside.
So it's something that you used to do then with your ad agency, and even before. Yeah. It was like a tool that you could use to separate yourself from everybody else.
There's this magazine called Creative Review, and what happened was they did an issue where the front cover was their to-do list for delivering that issue, and I just thought that's so fucking cool. So it just came from that, and I've always kind of stuck with it.
That's funny because that's kind of like a strategy that a friend of mine used as well in the Facebook game business. When did you have your advertising company? When was that?
So that ended about 5 years ago, but I had it for about 8 years.
Okay. So I was in the game space around 8 years ago as well, pretty heavily into that. And a friend of mine in Toronto had a game company as well. So we have these internal stats that you have, like lifetime value of a customer and a cost per acquisition of a customer. And these are all these metrics you use in valuing your game and the players of your game and how successful it is. And it was kind of like something that was taboo. Like, you don't want to tell everybody that's playing your game, like, how you think about them because you're afraid they'll revolt on you. And the other guys decided, well, we're just going to be totally transparent. We're going to tell everybody, this is how much we pay our staff. This is how much you guys are worth to us, and try to share the game for us so that we can increase the amount of people playing so that we can hire more people and make the game better. And it actually worked well for them. And I remember we were sitting in a meeting when we were kind of like at a conference having breakfast, and they were like, you know what, we're just going to be totally radically transparent. And I was like, oh my God, I could never do that with my game. I think my players would revolt. Why do you think people have that reaction? Like, I can't open the Komodo, I can't show people.
I think there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's just fear, right? It's just fear of opening yourself up because you're open to criticism. That's one of the things. Also, you're kind of giving away trade secrets. Like, you can tell a lot about, if you go through my income report, you can see the actual downloads per show. So you can see the guests which get the best downloads or the show types. You can probably figure out my rates for my advertising from it. People are scared about giving information away, and also, like, people are competitive, right? And don't get me wrong, look, I'm competitive as fuck. I want to win. I don't even let my kids win at Monopoly or anything. I absolutely want to destroy them, because I grew up with my dad. My dad never let me win anything. The first time I beat him at pool, I was about 17, and golf, I didn't beat him at golf till I was in my late 20s, but it made me work harder to win it, right? He just didn't let me win. And so I'm the same, and I'm really competitive. I try not to be like, because you can be quite negative if you're competitive. It can make you do negative things. But whilst I'm competitive, I kind of want everyone else to win. So I want to win, but I want everyone else to do well. Like, if other people want to do a podcast and do a Bitcoin podcast, I'm not like, oh no, here's another one. It's more competition. I'm like, great, let's grow Bitcoin. And I'm still going to try and be, one of the best ones out there or one of the biggest ones. And, the other podcasters I talk to, and I won't name names because it's unfair on them because they might not like it, but we talk, we share ideas. Like, if any of the other podcasters come to me and say, what are you doing, Pete? How do you do it? I'll share it all. I don't care, because I think we can all win. Yeah, I think most people are just kind of fearful of what it means.
Have you noticed anyone else with a Bitcoin podcast or a crypto podcast start this similar process?
I've certainly noticed some start to use the kind of banners that I do, when I publish a show. Those very kind of standout banners that you put onto Twitter. And some people are maybe doing their tweets when they announce a show similar to mine, or doing specials. I started doing those specials. I did the Lightning special, Mt. Cox. Other people are doing specials. Now, it doesn't mean that they are unique ideas to me. I'm always looking at other podcasters and getting ideas as well. A lot of my ideas, like my show structure, came from a guy called Rich Roll. Stuff I put on my website came from him. So, I got ideas from him. Like, I think you can take ideas from other people, but I'd like to think, without it coming across as arrogant in any way, that hopefully some of the work I've done has influenced people as other works influence mine.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's the reason why Square invested into BTC Pay Server, because they're trying to grow the entire industry, and then there's a wider pool of people using Bitcoin that's good for Square, even though BTC Pay Server is a competitor.
Like I say, we're trying to grow this industry, right? Plus, the other thing is, like, if you think of it in terms of competition, even if there's more competition, say mine is maybe the most downloaded Bitcoin podcast. I think Trace Mayer probably does more, but he doesn't do many shows. I think Laura Shin might do more, but she's more crypto. But whatever, by the by, I mean, whether it's the most or one of the most, even if you want to have your show have more downloads than me, you can copy ideas, which is cool. I love to, like, share ideas and other people to do it, but there's so many other factors you've got to try and compete on, like how hard I work, right?
Yeah, that's hard to replicate. That part is really important.
You got to work harder than me. You've got to hustle to get the guests harder than me. So I want more people in the space, and if more people come in and they do a good job, great. That's going to drive me on to do better. But that said, another thing is I don't listen to crypto podcasts anymore. So about, I can't remember when it was, 6 months, 8 months ago, I stopped listening to crypto podcasts, because what I found was happening is that I would listen to a Stefan show or a Marty show, and like I would listen every week and it would be influencing me. So they'd have a guest and I'd want the guest. And I was like, I want mine to stand out and be individual. So, like when you were a kid, when you had to do some homework, if you found a book it was in, you would copy the words and you'd be trying to rewrite the words. I didn't want to be like that with the show. So I wanted to just get guests that were independent of everyone else and do everything different. That's not always true. I just listened to Marty's show with Janine, which was brilliant. And what a fucking great show. Like, if there's a special show, but otherwise I actually spend most of my time listening to other non-crypto podcasts. to learn from them. So I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan. Like I've learned stuff about doing ad reads from Joe Rogan. Another thing Joe Rogan does that's really cool, which I'm trying to bring into mine, is he will have different guests who can be from completely different areas. Like he could have Rob Zombie, Roseanne Barr, and Bill Burr in the space of a week. And, Rob Zombie's a film director and, he was in White Zombie, and Roseanne's like a TV host and Bill Burr's like a stand-up comedian. And yet the narratives of the things he's discussing, like current affairs, they carry through, right? So I'm trying to do a similar thing with my shows. So, right, it's Bitcoin, but I might have like Eric Voskuil one week, and then I might have, I don't know, Bitcoin Mom, and then I might have like, whoever. The things I'm discussing and talking about, I'm trying to take from show to show, so it becomes a bit more like a series.
Yeah. It's got to be hard, though, after this many episodes to find a way to continue that, eh? Like to stay in the crypto, like Bitcoin. It's not even crypto. Like you've kind of like refocused on mostly Bitcoin, if not only Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many shows in are you now? Like 90 or 100 or something?
155 went live today.
Wow. Okay. So
yeah,
how are you finding it now that you've hustled so hard? Are you finding there's still lots of people to talk to? Or I guess maybe that's why you're talking to me on my show now.
No, dude, there are so many. Like, I mean, I've got a target hit list of people I want to talk to who've never been on. I'm trying to spread out into subjects which touch Bitcoin, but, aren't essentially Bitcoin. So, for example, maybe I'm talking to somebody who has a libertarian podcast, or I'll talk to someone about gun rights. I'm trying to expand the topics into things that Bitcoiners are interested in. I really enjoyed my interviews with Andrew Polstra, but I don't want to talk about Taproom and things like that because, firstly, I've got no idea what the hell he's talking about. And Stefan Livera can do a better job of that, or Marty can. I want my show to be more of an entertainment show, more of just a conversation that people can listen to and hear the things that I'm wrestling with, like the issues related to Bitcoin or the sister subjects, like morality things that feel aligned. I want people to hear us discussing that and trying to figure out how this stupid, crazy world works. So no, there's plenty of people left to talk to. And there's also lots of subjects. I have like a spreadsheet of people and subjects I want to cover, and it grows quicker than I can make shows.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your process, and I guess that's a good tip, is make a list of your dream hosts, I guess, your dream guests, I suppose.
Yeah, well, listen, look, I'll tell you everything I do. I use a thing called Agenda, which is just like a note-keeping thing. And in there, I have target guests, people I want to speak to, and I'm always adding to it. Like if I hear of somebody I want to speak to. And so if I open that up now, I'll actually read you from it. So blah, blah, blah. I have a thing to book ASAP, like the people I want to book ASAP. So for example, right now, I've done the show about guns with Ragnar. Now I want to do a show with somebody about who's pro-gun control because I want to hear the other side. So I've got that there. I've got Rodolfo on there because I want to talk to him. I've also got Matt Corello on there because I want to talk to him since he's gone to Square. So they're like a list of people I want to interview. And then I go down to like my topics. I want to do a week of shows with Bitcoin contrarians and talk about, the challenges. I want to do a show about Bitcoin jobs where I talk to people working in the industry and what it's like. I've got a title for a show called Bitcoin Purist, which I'm probably going to do with Rodolfo, where I talk about if you're a completely anti-shitcoin and you only want to touch Bitcoin, you want, what exchange you use, what hardware wallet. So that's just a list I keep, and I'm just always taking from that and booking the shows. And then what I do is I have like a big, huge spreadsheet thing. So the first tab's my guest schedule. And in there, I've got like a column for each show. So for now, I can see 155, 156, 157, so on. It says who it is, where they're from, what the theme is, what the category is, what the release date is, whether it's recorded or not, blah, blah, blah. So that's like the schedule. And then I have a guest booking spreadsheet it's got all the guests that I've got booked ahead, when I've got them booked in, what we're going to be talking about, blah, blah, blah. And I've got color coded. So if it's confirmed, it's one color. If it's a conversation I'm having because I haven't got them booked in, it's another color. So I know what I'm doing there. Then I've got my ad schedule. So I have an ad schedule for the ads that are going out on each show. And then I have target guests here where I've actually got a spreadsheet from Hive One of the people, how many followers they got, what kind of reach they've got. Because, I want to grow my show and I don't just game the system, because that's super easy actually, by the way. But I do have an interest in kind of knocking off the top 100 in Hive, of which I've done, a good fair amount of. I'd say I've done at least half of them. And then I have my stats. I keep all my stats like for every show and every channel. So I almost run it like a business. The data is really important for me of knowing what's going on. But yeah, it's a machine. I have a Google Drive set up. Once a show's recorded, it goes up. My engineer engineers it. He sends me back my scripts. I record the scripts. We publish it. It's run like a business.
Like, did you get all this Because that's a pretty good organizational system you got going there. Did you learn this like in your ad company, or did you read a book to learn how to do this, or did you just figure it yourself?
No, I just figured it out myself. What I first had was just my my schedule of guests. I just had a spreadsheet, because I wanted to keep a record. I just created a record of the guests, so I just had the information there. And then I think the next one I did was my targets. I just put that in there and color coded it.
You didn't get Ian Bellina to make this sheet for you?
No, man, no. It's just one of those things that's built up as I've done it. Like, I'm big on lists and organization. So I want to know what everything is, where the information is. And then just as I've got busy, I've just had to become more organized. And so these are just spreadsheets I've created for myself.
Do you have an assistant helping you with this stuff, or do you just do it mostly yourself?
No, but I've got my engineer/producer who now works full time for me. And so he does a lot of the organization once the show's recorded, and he does all the publishing to the website. Actually, tomorrow is his first day full time. So he's been doing it part time. He'll be doing a lot more for me so I can focus on the interviews.
That's awesome. Congrats. Congrats to him too.
Yep. Thanks to Kraken.
Kraken's one of your sponsors, and I imagine they're helping pay for his salary.
Yeah, without them, I couldn't do it. And I think an assistant is something I need, but I'm so picky on the small details. Like, I worry about handing those small bits over to an assistant. So, for example, one thing I'm never going to do is I'm not going to hand over the booking of guests to an assistant. One of the things that works well is that I contact them and I speak to them. I tell them the show I want to make. I think it would be a bit weird if Safety got an email from some random person saying, "Would you like to come on Peter's show?" I feel like I still need to do that stuff.
I feel like, because that's happened to me before, and it happened during the 2017 bull run. I was contacted by someone's assistant a couple of times to be on a show. And I gotta admit, at first I was like, ooh, there's someone that has an assistant that wants me to go on their show. That's cool. But then you think about it, it's the personal touch is always going to be better. You're going to most likely have a better shot of having the person say yes if you're the one that's reaching out to ask personally to get on the show.
Well, exactly. I always have these PR people getting in touch, relentlessly trying to pitch people for my show. People have absolute no interest at all. And virtually every single time it's no, I'm just not interested in these PR emails. Occasionally someone gets in touch direct, and then I'll have a conversation with them, and I'm more inclined to go, okay, maybe you're not right for now, I'll have you in the future, but you got to go with the personal touch here. So there's certain things I'll hand over and certain things I won't.